We've done factoring with a greatest common factor, but sometimes there isn't a greatest common factor, or sometimes you have a trinomial and you can do this other special type of factoring with trinomials. And when the trinomial is in the form x squared plus bx plus c, meaning that the number in front of the x squared is 1, next lesson we're going to look at times when it isn't 1, but for right now, all of our coefficients of x squared will be 1. And when that's true, here are the steps you want to do to factor it. You want to make a list of the factors of the c term. And the c is that constant term, the one that has no variables attached to it. You want to use these pairs to think, how can I add to get the b term? So from the list that you just made of factors, you want to look at the pairs and figure out what you can do to get that number that's in the b position. And then you want to use this method that I call the double bubble method. That's just my personal phrasing. I don't think you'll ever hear anyone call it that. But I call it the double bubble method to write two binomials and plug in the pair. Last thing you want to do is always check. And the reason you always want to check is because every now and then you'll think you have the pair, you'll bet money on the fact that you have the right pair, you'll swear up and down that you have the right pair, and when you actually go and check, it just doesn't work. So every now and then that will happen, and you always want to just be on the safe side and make sure that you check everything. So here's how it works. In order to do the double bubble method, you just set up your two parentheses, kind of like setting up FOIL. Remember, FOIL has two binomials being multiplied. So we're kind of doing reverse FOIL in this lesson. We're undoing the FOIL. And so the only way to get x squared, remember that we would do first times first in FOIL. And the only way to get x squared is to do x times x. So I'm going to set that up right away. So this is how I always set up the double bubble method. Now I want to pull my c term to the side, which in this case is positive 16. And I want to make a list of numbers that can multiply to positive 16. So I've got 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 and 4. You also want to keep in mind that they could be negative. So I could technically also have negative 1 and negative 16, negative 2 and negative 8, or negative 4 and negative 4, because remember, right, those would also multiply to positive 16. So now we go to step 2. And using these pairs that we've just listed, you think, how can I add the pair, each particular pair, to get the number in the B spot? So 10 is in the B spot. So which pair here gives you a positive 10 when you add them? Take a look at the list. There's going to be 1. If you picked 2, 8, then you found the right pair. So then what you do is you found it. Now you just plug it in. X plus 2, x plus 8, and that's your answer. X plus 2 times x plus 8 equals x squared plus 10x plus 16. You always want to just make sure that you check. So I'm going to just check using FOIL. I'm not going to write it out. I'm just going to say it out loud. X squared times x is x squared. That's F. O is x times 8. I is 2 times x. And L is 2 times 8. And so if I were to combine these two, I would get x squared plus 10x plus 16. All right, let's check out letter B. Set up your double bubble. And the only way to get x squared is to do x times x. Next step is to pull out the positive 12 and say, what numbers do I multiply to get positive 12? Well, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, or it could be negative 1, negative 12, negative 2, negative 6, or negative 3, negative 4. So next thing you do is you use these pairs to think, how can I add to get the number in the B spot? So I'm looking for negative 8, find me a pair, Then when you add them, you get -8. The pair is -2, -6. So you plug it in, and there you are. You want to check it. I'm going to check with out loud FOIL. F would be x times x. O would be x times -6. I would be -2 times x. And L would be -2 times 6. And when I combine these, I do get -8, so that's checked. Let's do some more just to reinforce. Letter D. Set up your double bubble, but in this case, it's going to be W because that's your variable, so WW. Pull your 3 out to the side. I'm just going to go to the left because I have more room. And what number is multiplied to +3? Well, either 1 times 3 or -1 times -3. Those are the only two. Which pair gives you a -4 when you add them? It's this pair right here. So then you just plug them in. It never matters which one you put in which position. It doesn't. A lot of kids will say it doesn't matter which one I put first, and the answer is no. So there's your answer, and you want to check. That would be W squared minus 3W minus 1W plus 3. Combine these, and you will get -4. Last one together. Set up your double bubble, N and N, and you want to pull out -21. 1 or -21. But I could also have -1 and +21. I could have 3 and -7, or -3 and +7. I think that's it. So I want to look for my pair that gives me a -4 when I add them. So it looks like this pair, +3 with a -7. N squared to check, -7n plus 3n minus 21, and these would in fact combine to -4. Last one together, example 2. Read it, pause the video, read it, then play when you're ready to do it. So what they're telling me is that this section right here has an area of 600. The whole length is S, and in order to find the length and width of the pumpkin patch, this is going to be represented by S minus 40, because it's the whole side minus the section that's 40. This section is represented by the S minus 30, because it's the whole side, take away that 30 section. So the area, right, remember area is length times width, so it's 600 equals S minus 40 times S minus 30. Please pause the video, use FOIL or whatever technique you want, and then right here, write down what you get as your final answer, and then play back the video. That's what I got, and now I'm just going to bring down the 600 equals. In order to solve this, we want to use the zero product property, so we have to get this 600 to the other side, and that way we can use the zero product property. So I'm just going to move the 600 over. Okay, so now let's use the zero product property to solve. In order to use it, we have to get it factored. So you're going to pull all your pairs that go to 600. And you say, are you absolutely for real? You want me to list all the numbers that multiply to 600? And the answer is no. As soon as you know the pair, you write it down. You don't have to, if you know it on the first try, write it down on the first try. If it takes you 10 tries, well, then you're just a really bad guesser, but you got it. So you write down as many pairs as you need, and as soon as you find the one that adds to -70, stop writing down pairs. You do not need to write all of them. So pause the video, write down all your pairs. Hopefully that's the pair you got, -60, -10. So let's double bubble it. -60, -10. Bring down the equals 0. Drop the line to use the zero product property. If s minus 60 equals 0, that means s was 60. If s minus 10 equaled 0, then that meant s was 10. Now, if s is 10, what would happen over here? It wouldn't make any sense, because if s is 10, how can that side up here be 40, right? S would be smaller than half of it. So s cannot be 10. It doesn't make sense for it to be 10. So s has to be 60. And so now what is the area of the square plot of land? So s times s would be how you get the area. So that would be 60 times 60, which is 3,600 square meters. This section is for you, so practice your factoring, try your double bubble method, and again, as soon as you find the pair, you can stop. Whatever questions you have, write them down on your note sheet. Please ask me when you come to class, and we will go over them. Are you ready for the answers? Here they are.